we're trying to do this with a workaround. Trying to do this with the Zen chess workaround. Blubix just subscribed with Twitch Prime. 9 months. When I hover my mouse, yeah, I have no idea. I mean, something just totally went nuts with my window captures on Streamlabs, and I spent the last 40 minutes trying to figure out what the problem is, but we're just going to use Zen Chess's workaround that we have a display capture. I have no idea what I had no idea what's going on with Streamlabs in my windows. It didn't seem to matter. I noticed something about hardware acceleration settings. Zen Chess, does anybody have any opinion about whether that could be an issue? When I was just glancing through some web pages with this issue with the white screens, something about hardware acceleration. The board up. It's kind of hard to do. I'm doing a display capture. Maybe I can, yeah, we can move it up just very little there. That's about the best I can do. It's covered by the subtitles. Let me see how it looks. Oh, I see. Yeah, we need to drag the board up even more. I can move the window up. Can I try to move the window up more? Oh, it just fell down. That's weird. That sucks. So our workaround sucks. Well, I have to disable the bottom bar. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by disable the bottom bar? Resize the board to smaller. Yeah, that's probably a better solution. Let's resize the board a tiny bit smaller. I think that's going to work. It's going to be a better solution. Temporary sort of problem here. Hopefully not a long-term problem. Let's see, board. Where's board size? I guess I have to go back. Can I do that on... Wait, can I grab the board or whatever? That doesn't work in Firefox, right? How do I make the board smaller? You want to just make the whole window smaller? Is there a way to make this board smaller? I thought you were supposed to be able to drag it or something, but that doesn't work on Firefox, right? We'll just make the board smaller, I guess. I really don't know what to do. Damn it, I made it bigger. This is so stupid. I'll have to disable the Pondicam too. It's still too low. Alright, I gotta move it up. Move it up there. Move it back over. And then we'll disable Pondicam. Still doesn't fit. Man, this is sick. How about now? Or just move upon the camera. How about that? Sorry, guys. I apologize for the inconvenience, but at least we can stream. That's about the best we're gonna do. Now I can't I can't look at the board. I can't access my other messages. We'll have to move the board every time. Really irritating. I can just disable Punda, but it seems to be working like this. Okay, now he's out of the way. Alright, so well, sorry about the stream. Saeed was white. This is drag bottom right. Bottom right. This bottom right doesn't work in Mozilla Firefox, I don't think. Are you talking about just generally moving it? Alright, so it's modern defense. H3. H3. What is this? It's a very strange move. My opinion here is that H3 is very early at this stage. I think it's particularly good against the Gurgenidze. It's too early for this move, I believe. I'm sorry for the setup, guys. This is the best we're gonna do for now. Okay, H3, a little bit of a strange move. I mean, very early here. I don't really get it. But it seems like if black plays d5, then knight c3 we transpose back into a pretty good line, actually, for white. Where's Turkey Farm? He's an expert in the modern defense. It is kind of an interesting idea. I mean, white has a very good score. If you look at the score here, H3 is interesting. How many moves? I mean, how many games has H3 even played in? 27 games. I don't see it here on the list. There it is. It has a very good score. Limited number of games. I mean, it's true that H3 might be useful against either D6 or D5. By the way, this is Saeed's game. Great setup effort to be able to see this H3. Can be justified in a G3. It looks like you're playing against the dragon, Blubix. Can be justified in a G3 line to play bishop E3 and avoid a later knight G4. This should face D5 at one point. Yeah, well, I even wonder if black should play D5 in 2 moves now. That seems logical. I mean, it's possible you could transpose to some kind of other line. Black loses a move and white loses a move. After something like D5, bishop D3, D takes E4, bishop D... I mean, what's happening here? Like here, this old Heinrich Dobos game. Man, I've never met this guy. He has like a variation named after him. Dobos Heinrich. So yeah, this is interesting. You know, maybe black really should play D5. It makes complete sense. I mean, obviously you could take, but I'm not impressed by this. What is this? It's kind of a random exchange variation of the Caro-Kann. G6 is a decent setup in this variation too. So, you know, it feels like bishop c4 is a mistake. That's the conclusion. You know, one interesting thing here is the fact that modern defense players, they've developed systems of playing against h3 setups with the fianchetto on the queen side. This is like Black's committed now to playing this old school sort of c6 variation, the way they would have played like in the 60s or something. When I lost to Sebe Attila in rapid chess, his first reaction when facing an h3 type formation was to do like b6 or a6 and b5 on the queen side. Some kind of double fianchetto, in other words, which is like more active. Basically, Black trying to get the bishop on this diagonal, alternatively. So h3 has forced Black into playing kind of an old school setup here. We should get eucalyptus. Screw you, man. Eucalyptus on every board. I'm sorry. You gotta be everybody's a wise guy. I'm sorry about the eucalyptus board. The eucalyptus leaves. I'm sorry they're not translucent. We're doing our best, man. I struggled for 40 minutes to figure out like what the heck is wrong with my setup, and I have no clue what it is. Please try to bear with the eucalyptus leaves, even if I can't pronounce it. Bishop c4 is a mistake. All right, that's the conclusion. But the good news is that White can just play something like knight c3. We have a pretty good variation, I would think. I'm surprised that White has a negative score in this position, honestly. h3 should be a pretty good setup against the Pirts. So I think bishop f4 c4 is bad. Maybe here we have to go e5, and it transposes to an Alyekin's defense. You gotta play e5 now. What's up, Jim? Don't ask. We had some tactical problems. This is too passive. I agree, you have to play e5 here. Knight takes e5. Nigel short. Anyways, a form of Alyekin's defense. It's okay for both sides. So knight d2 is too passive. Black should be able to play e5 around here, I would think. But maybe there's a technical problem. If you play e5, I can actually take the pawn on e5. Now e5. e5 might be a good move now. I think this game, it just gives us more questions than answers. You know, why not e5 now? I really kind of like this because Black doesn't have knight to g4. Still, this is not a bad move. But now Black can play e5. And we really don't want him to play e5. I vote for this move. So I feel like you've been too hesitant here, Saeed. Once Black gets in e5, his position is more or less stable. Although I admit your bishop on b3 is really good in this position. Yeah, it almost looks like a Roy Lopez. That's cool. So it's become a Roy Lopez. I wouldn't play a5. It looks a little bit weakening. And I like a4. I mean, I like the fact that white squares can be kind of weak here. generally, this is, as I said, it's become a Roy Lopez. You sort of undermined your own center with d5. Just not appropriate. I mean, taking on b5 might be interesting to increase your central control and get rid of a pawn. Or you can maintain the tension, but this move looks like you're undermining your own center when you play d5. So it is a little hard to find a waiting move in this position. I admit, you know, knight f1, pulling the knight away from the center. When there's tension in the center, normally you don't. That's actually a game. Rook Robert against Etienne Bacrot. Draw, 2011. Wow. Very solid player. But, you know, there's other options. Maybe you could play like bishop c2, sort of overprotect this. I don't have a lot of suggestions. That's one of the only suggestions, basically, bishop c2. d5 is bad. And I think the black should just take. Always take. Although he could do it this way as well. It's a little more complicated. But I think the most important development here is the fact that your white square bishop is gone. You know, that may not be a big problem. Black has a bad piece on g7. But I am concerned about the central pawn. It could come under a lot of fire from the white square bishop. There goes the center, huh? Now this piece still doesn't have much value. And he really doesn't want to give up his bishop. So this is probably a good move. What a great piece for black. Have range. And he doesn't want to trade pieces apparently, but I don't really see why black should fear the endgame here. I would think that black's chances would be obviously he's looking at g2. He doesn't fear the endgame, he wants to put you away in the middle game. He thinks he can get more. This knight f4 is very, very tempting. But I have to say that like this kind of endgame, I still think that black is clearly better. This bishop alone is worth enormous. Maybe you have two pawns hanging, huh? This is tactically justified by the fact that those two pawns are hanging? Nah, black can play f6. And black's better after f6, it looks like. Unless there's some sort of tactic I don't see. Should be better for black. There is a tactic, rook d1. Damn it. Just active enough. Hold the balance here. So queen b7 was a good move. This is a much better version where your knight's not attacking e5. It's only attacking a5. Black played well. Two bishops in the endgame, f6. Eventually, I'm not sure where this rook should go. Rook e8, maybe, to keep his knight off of e6. Okay, he's just going to play h6. What about h6 directly? This is probably a good move. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can afford to weaken your position with pawn moves. Black is better with these two bishops. He played a very, very strong, mature game. He's going to drive away this knight from its outpost. It looks kind of classic, actually. This pressure from the A pawn, very nasty. Black is clearly better. So you sort of tried a desperate move, but I think this makes your position worse. But it's not easy to suggest what to do here. You know, I think that white misplayed the position by giving up the white square bishop in the first place. Now there's more weaknesses. This is dreadful. Black played really well. This fortunately protects the d1 square. Should he just invade first with rook d1 check? I would think. I would think rook d1 check would be a very strong move. After this, instead of f5, rook d1 check is strong. This was missed. Whoa, what did I just do? Sorry, guys. My scroller. Yeah, I don't think you can let him on the 8th rank like that. Strangely, he didn't exploit it, and now you have time to play knight c3. So he didn't get in there. Very direct e4. And this is just losing a pawn. Why would he take with the bishop? Oh, he wins d4. Actually, yeah, he takes with the bishop, wins a piece. No, it doesn't win a piece. But yeah, bishop d4 check, bishop d4, rook takes, knight c2, winning the exchange, so it's over. Yeah, this wins. Game. That's just a technical win. Yeah, so there was a lot there, actually. I mean, giving up the white square bishop seemed like your biggest mistake. See the computer suggestion? Sorry, at what point? After e4. F takes e4. But seemingly loses a piece. F takes e4. Why not bishop d4 check? I mean, aren't you losing an exchange all the same here? Should be just winning. This was the reason why I don't get into the line, but you have rook g3. I think that 99% of players would have missed this. That's cute. So it's a miracle. Knight takes a1, rook takes g6 check. No, you shouldn't blame yourself for not seeing this. I don't think you should blame yourself for not seeing it. I mean, you can blame yourself for not seeing it, but I don't think that's the main thing I would take away from the game. You should not get yourself into this kind of situation where you have to find like a perfect computer-like sequence of 6 moves to save yourself. No, you can't expect yourself to find, 5-move sequences every time, you get a bad position. The best advice is just not to get a bad position. Of course, sometimes you should see it, but how often are we going to find this? Maybe one in 4 times. We should see it occasionally, hopefully, but not every time. All right, let's move on. Kind of a shortened stream today, guys, because of the technical problems that we're experiencing. WJ Loof is back. Can you guys still see the board okay? Actually, Mr. Slow. My bad. It's Mr. Slow is up next. Then WJ Loof. This is from Mr. Slow. Much appreciated. WJ Loof for the donation. I faked him out. I said I was going to do his game. Thank you. I got him to donate 200 bits. And then I'm like, no, it's not your turn. Mr. Slow's last over the board game against higher rated teammate. Bad French defense. My opponent managed By trying to press my position really hard, Trapezoid Queen, he instantly resigned. He loves the French defense. Let's see. You just got paid, yay. Me too. What happened here? Hello, moves. Doesn't want to work. Because these funky things. What is this? Alright, let's just... Can I cut that out? What is this, like homemade? What is wrong with this? Damn, it wouldn't even let me. What is going on? Alright. Let's try this one more time. You're gonna be that way about it. Alright. Nothing's gonna come easy today, apparently. Nothing is gonna come easy, so we're gonna do this a different way. We're gonna modify it. We can't modify it here. Are you kidding me? Alright, let's try a trick. We're gonna do a trick. We're gonna copy this. And we're gonna paste it here. And then we're gonna copy it again. And we're gonna copy it and we're gonna paste it in an analysis board. Maybe it will work. Thank you, thank you. I am a genius. That's why I get the big money. When technology is not on your side, that's why they pay me the big money. Import the game. No, it's fine. Like, this is fine now. So let's flip it. You guys can see the board. That would be doing it the easy way, Saeed. I'm a little bit messed up here, though, with my ability to do what I normally do, because I'm doing a display capture instead of window captures. I'm kind of handicapped in the way that I can manipulate the games without like screwing up our view of the board and stuff. So I'm trying to not do things the way I normally would. French defense, knight d2, knight f6, e5, knight d7, bishop d3. Okay, so this is like mainline, whatever it's called. The main line of the main line, kind of. One of the main lines of the Tarish French. c5, c3, knight c6, the main line, we'll call it. And now cd4, cd4, queen b6. Black is supposed to play f6. I am not a player of French defense. But that's what the cognoscenti do. However, not everyone like Sebastian Feller has a computer built into their play. So bishop b4 check is an attempt to lead the main line. I would assume that it's good for white, but maybe this has been recommended to Mr. Slow by a reliable source. All I know is general rules. You don't want to trade the dark square bishop when you're playing this type of pawn structure. White wants to trade it off. 8f6 is better? Okay. That's the more accurate move order. But that allows white to play like knight f4, right? I mean, this is a sideline. I mean, you're probably aware of this. One of my teammates had a crazy this is a crazy variation. But I suppose that maybe the theory has been, analyzed to death. Black sacks the exchange, and I just wondered if your move order is an attempt to possibly negate that possibility. You could transpose. Mr. Slow is here. You could transpose to the main line by playing f6, right? Although, like, you don't necessarily... Yeah, I don't know if you necessarily want your queen to be on b6 or not. Someone on sound, it is an unfortunate consequence of a problem with my Streamlabs. This is not an intentional new layout. I spent 40 minutes troubleshooting, and this is the best I could do. Bishop d2, check, and the bishop comes back. So he knows better than to trade this bishop off. Almost no games where this has ever been played, just some randoms. The first game, I have no idea if they're over-the-board players or correspondents. Belazarsky was the name of my Russian professor. I think Belazarov might be a real over-the-board player. So now bishop c3. Truly material-loving. I would think that this pawn is something you could possibly donate, but let's see what the oracle says. All three of these guys play bishop c3. I'm telling you, that pawn feels like it's a no-no. Poisonous. I'm just not sure that it's necessary, to defend such a pawn with an awkward move like bishop c3. So let's say castles. Are you going to take this pawn? And if you did, what's the big deal? I mean, clearly your queen isn't trapped, but it's in an awkward spot. So you didn't do this intentionally, you just messed up. You messed up the move order, okay? I'm telling you, I don't think this is necessary. Castles, the bishop is actually happier here. This helps you in a way. I mean, your bishop, the enemy bishop is in a terrible position where it's blocked by, it's glued to its own pawn on b2, gets off this diagonal. It might help, though. It does one thing that's important. It helps to negate black's chances to play e5. Yeah, both you and the other player who played this position played knight takes f6. Bishop takes f6 seems to leave black undeveloped. No place with a knight on d7. Yeah, I don't think we can do it. There's too much traffic over here. If you take with the bishop, it's just too much problems. These queenside pieces can't get out. So this is Vargasoli against Ivan Radulov. Journeyman Grandmaster against Vargasoli. Draw. Knight g3. Knight g3 is not the best square, but f4 is not defended. It's not that easy to play these white positions. There are other moves that white might want to consider here. Rook c1. Maybe some kind of queenside expansion with a4 and b4. a4 looks tempting. Rook c1, because eventually your queen might drop back here to try to support e5. I would think rook c1 would be a reasonable location. But maybe he wants to keep control of e4. Okay, this is not great square, but it stops you from coming into e4. Bishop d7. Rook, and then what? Nimzovich. So he's willing to forgo the e-file pressure to trip your knight back to e8. If you take, pawn takes, knight e8, obviously white has a raving attack here. Raging and raving. Actually, how strong is it really? Maybe it's all just a fantasy. Raving attack. Yeah, this looks pretty tough, actually. Not liking this. Raving rabbits. Not healthy. Even so, there may be defense. Oh my god. You don't say. Black is winning. Raving Lunatic, that's right. Raging Rampage. This is not clear. You have hate mail. Maybe bishop d2. If only the bishop was on d2. I'm still not sure what's going on. Apparently you have outs. Queen takes b2 is enough. How the heck does that work? Queen takes b2, bishop h6. And you could just take here. Cold-blooded. That's the most cold-blooded defense ever. Just for an example of how many resources black has here. So it's possible to take. It's a very unpleasant decision. It looks like you did the right thing. Bishop e8. And I like white. But again, it's not that easy to make progress. It's not that easy to make progress. Knight h5. What is he going to do? Okay, so he just makes this sort of routine developing move. Rook c1. I literally sat there suggesting knight h5 for a moment. Yeah, it would be a good idea if it was protected. Okay, this looks like a normal move. Now you played rook d8, which looks strange. Dude, I mean, at this point, can't you just take on e5 and play knight d7? He's got queen g4. So knight e5, de5, knight d7, queen g4. Yeah, that's pretty strong for white. So rook d8 is some sort of plan? Is there a plan here? Because I feel like we're treading water at best. Actually, very difficult to play both sides. It's more difficult to be black than it is for white. Yeah, I'm sort of desperate, but it looks like white's going to build his attack somehow. Maybe king h1 and f4. Eventually, he could just play king h1 and f4. In fact, I mean, maybe he should have done that last move. I mean, even f4 is a move. Nah, there's knight takes d4. The best move is rook d8. I guess it was a good idea. Okay, rook c1, rook d8, bishop b1. Interesting. So this is his plan. Yeah, Mr. Slow has some knight e4 ideas. Okay. So he doesn't really stop it. Is it possible to play bishop c5? No, that loses immediately, at least a pawn. And you have this very nice idea here, bishop e5. This is really, really interesting. The only aggressive move looks like queen g4. But he found this. Another avenue. That is annoying. If rook e7, that's not good. He has to take back. And then somewhat awkward defensive move. And so the smoke clears and black is slightly worse spatially. The only weak point, really, this. Looks like queen h5. What are we doing on queen h5? Kids, I'm a little bit concerned about this. Any suggestions? Because I don't like queen h5. It looks kind of problematic. So he was fixated on like queen c7 and queen... He was fixated on queen c7, I guess. g6 and perpetual. Shit. Excuse me. Is that it? No, but I mean, it's a good result for black. I think he's slightly worse. But I don't know that white has better than that. Black's pieces are active. If he can't break through now, I mean, I think that black might be fine. Really, this might be the best move. Computer found a win. So, maybe not. Let's check it out. Rook c1. Unbelievable. It's not a win. Just a symbolic move. Purely symbolic. But the question is, should white do the perpetual? Remains. I think he should, probably. Queen g4, I'm not sure what it does. No, I don't think that white has anything. I think he should force a draw here. Instead, he played queen c2. Interesting. Invading here at c7. Now, interesting move is queen c6. Then rook c1. And it's not so interesting anymore after that, I suppose. Yeah, rook d8 is very unpleasant. Pepe Lu went live. Is the streamer battle tonight? Can somebody explain that to me? I must have missed my dates or something. I thought it was tomorrow. Like, I was telling people that's why I wasn't doing it. They were like, are you doing the streamer battle? I said no, because I'm starting my tournament that day. And nobody just said anything. I was like, why are these guys streaming now? All week I said like I wasn't going to do the streamer battle because it was on Friday and I'm starting my tournament. For some reason, that was my whole perception. Anyway, c'est la vie. So rook d8. Nice. Iron Man defense. I mean, black still feels very tied up here. But it's like impossible to see a way that white can make progress. This is a good move, though. Bishop c5 is nice. Damn. He's really squeezing. So what happened now? What happened now? You're gonna feel embarrassed with your game after this? Did, like, you lost control of the score and he went on to lose or something? That's sick. I thought rook c1 was too fancy anyway. That's what he gets for being fancy. I wouldn't call it like overpressing. I would say he's just being fancy with this move. So we were explained that white resigned here because bishop takes e7, rook c8, which I failed to appreciate. Yeah, that's sad. But it's like really sad because he achieved his goal. I mean, he basically trades off his bad bishop and your king is exposed in the middle of the board. After bishop e7, king e7, I mean, white has to be better. So it's not... Again, I think it's not as much overpressing as being fancy. Still, you know, maybe you're just fine here. You're threatening rook c8, so he probably has to play this, and then you move your king back to f7 or e8, I don't know which one. And again, you threaten to extricate yourself with rook c8 and take over the c file. But it feels like with all the black square weaknesses, if I can click on black squares, I mean, there are certain aspects to the position that favor black. Protected pass pawn on d5, namely the main thing. I gotta believe that white is still okay here, maybe even a little bit better with the black king exposed. Yeah. But it's impressive how solid your position is, slow hand. You know, you think with the king out of the middle of the board, you would clearly be worse. There's not that many pieces left, you know, for him to really conduct an attack. That's a funny way to lose, though. I didn't see it. I just thought, oh, you agreed to a draw or something. Wow. Yeah, it's clumsy. Pretty forgivable mistake, honestly. Man. But I mean, you achieve the main thing here, which is to trade the bishops off. King f7. Tough move. You must have been scared at this point. White is slightly better. But it's a very tedious position. Thanks for sharing, Mr. Sohan. Alright, a fortunate defense and a win. Astrobait's up next. I don't know how many games I'm going to get to. I'm going to do my best. Astrobait playing black here. Guys, thank you for supporting the stream. Please support the stream. Don't forget to donate via PayPal or Streamlabs because I love Streamlabs so much. I love Streamlabs. Anyway, at least the streaming banner is still working, even though the Windows captures don't work. It's all my fault. Alright, Astrobait's up here. Thank you guys for subscribing. That's the main point of the stream. To thank you guys for subscribing. So d4, knight f6, c4, c5. You're welcome, Mr. Slow. Thanks for supporting the stream. Knight f3. This is a good anti-Astrobait move because he doesn't encounter this very often. I think I told Astrobait before, and if not, I've told other people. I recommend that you play the gambit. C takes d4, knight takes d4, e5. This is Kasparov approved. Very sound pawn sacrifice. Knight b5, d5, pawn takes pawn, a6. Sorry, bishop c5 first. If you haven't played this and you have the opportunity to play it, I recommend playing this variation. This is a very strong sacrifice. It's kind of like a Nimzovich French advance, like reverse colors or something. Push e4. You have some space advantage. To some people, this might seem like some sort of coffee house pawn sacrifice, but it's not. It's a really legitimate gambit system. I think Astrobait should try that, but if you don't have the heart for that, well, you just got to play the black side of a symmetrical English here. There's a million variations that are possible. Astrobait, maybe you should try the Feugl system, b6. It's funny, I have the volume turned on my machine down to 0, and I can still hear when there's like... It's like rebelling. I can still hear when there's a donation from Mr. Slowhand. I heard like a blink. That doesn't make sense. Maybe it was something in another room. I heard a notification or something just at the moment Mr. Slowhand sent 200 bits. So I like b6, dude. Considering you're playing the Owen defense, this would completely fit your repertoire. The main line is something like knight c3, bishop b7, f3. There's also bishop g5. I think I saw a cool gambit around here. Maybe someone played e4. Yeah, e4. Look at this. Sacrificing a pawn after a6. You gotta admire going for it with e4. Anyway, Astrobate, I think b6 is an interesting option. You're going into kind of like a mainstream position. I may have recommended this at one point. An obscure variation to avoid theory. It's the anti-theory move. I was trying to come up with something in my Blumenfeld repertoire series for the chess world that would enable black to kind of have something that, you know, wasn't 20 moves of theory in the symmetrical English, which is pretty hard to avoid here. So this is the only thing I could think of that was decent and sort of original. All right, so Astrobate basically goes into what is like the most theoretical variation of the symmetrical English here. And his opponent plays the ultra kind of lame bishop d2. g3 is main line. And that's about it. I mean, I don't really recommend any other move here. But bishop d2 is not that bad. It's a little bit like playing 4 bishop d2 against the Nimzo. White is still equal after this move. This is interesting. A3. So my intuition here would be either bishop takes knight e4. Is that going to not work because of knight takes c6? Let's check it. Bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, knight e4. Knight takes c6. Eckhard Schmidt deal was only 2350. He's an old man now. It's hard to be older than me, but it's possible. So knight takes c6, knight takes c3, queen d4. The draw, we'll call it the draw variation. Yeah, that's sort of fun. Queen f6. And now white played knight e5. That's a cool game. It almost looks, this, honestly, you got to admit this looks like it was composed. What do you think, Blobix? Composed? I think they're friends and this game was composed. d6. Now you got to play queen takes d6 here. That loses to... No, it's interesting because you have queen takes f2 check. I thought this would be funny. Here, check, here. And they take c6. Obviously black's better with the pawn structure. Anyway, all right. That seemed all very logical to me. Astrobate played bishop a5, which is not my favorite move. I would think like probably would play a sensible retreat here, like Ponomaryov, Astrobate. What are you thinking? What did Vugar Gashimov do? He did bishop e7. This is provocative Astrobate novelty. Bishop a5. And white calls his bluff. Wow. See, that's what you get. Knight takes d4, pawn takes a5, queen takes a5. Looks actually pretty scary. Did you do it? No, you didn't calculate. Astrobay doesn't like to calculate. Even though he's pretty good, it's mostly not calculation based. It's more like he overwhelms his opponent. Can we try to sneak this pawn? Very dangerous, to say the least here. Draw, obviously. After this, the white can probably try something else. Hypothetical variation. Like most of us, Astrobay is too lazy with his calculation. He obviously saw that was a draw. So instead he played bishop c7. And white, I don't know. Not really excited to make this exchange, okay? And now Astrobay plays d takes c. It's certainly the safer move. I prefer to take toward the center if I can play d5 or d6 before it's too late. But this is sound. You have a symmetrical structure. You can play e5 and get your bishop out. It looks like your opponent's move now is just... Well, he probably doesn't have anything here, actually. I don't know what to recommend. Bishop g5 allows bishop e5. Okay, maybe this. It's approximately equal after bishop g5. Peter thinks black's better. Wow. Possible. Alright. But this move, the weaknesses on the dark squares look really bad. Not sure why he played bishop e8. It's ridiculous. He's playing like one move cheapos with mate on c2 or h2. So you need to think of ways to increase your control over those, to dominate those dark squares, Astrobay, not set up like one move cheapos. I mean, obviously e5 is perfectly okay. I was also looking at this earlier to put the bishop on d4. Clearly, like bishop e6 doesn't work because he's just going to play c5 anyway. So we can go here. This actually threatens to win a pawn. While you're at it, apparently white can still hold with queen c2. Okay, so the cheapo is played. I know what he's trying to do. His opponent doesn't know what he's trying to do. Mr. Slowhand, thank you for your donations today. 1,000 bits from Mr. Slowhand. We've had donations, what is today? Thursday? From Jim, Night Be Free, Alms, Coach A, Barons, NWJ Loof, Merle Dixon, HTFP, and Nin. This week, guys, I have to remind you, we are streaming tomorrow morning, my pre-tournament stream, but I'm going to be playing from Friday, from tomorrow, in a tournament here in Budapest. So evening streams are canceled for the following week. Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. The next Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, there will be no evening streams. Just so you know. Oh, surprisingly, Astrobay played queen c7. It's just shameful, man. It's shameful. And you're proud of that. It's actually a bad move. The best move is bishop e5. I don't know who thought of that idea. You got to graduate from the clown moves, Astrobay. Although it makes a great show. either of these positional moves. I guess this is the best. Bishop e5. I mean, even e5. Peter doesn't like this. Well, you shouldn't have played bishop b8 in the first place, frankly. I mean, e5 is okay, but bishop e5 I like the best. It just hangs mate. Well, that was entertaining.
No!
All right, Uber driver's up next. Guys, we have an hour left in the stream. We have a late start today, so at least 45 minutes I'm going to go. 45 minutes, let's say. I'm going to get to as many games as I can. Uber driver. Uber driver, looks like an interesting game. Uh-oh. Where is it? Another one I have to grab? Oh, Swidler Carlson? Game was agreed, drawn in final position. White was careful not to allow possibility of rook h1. WG Liv, I skipped you again? I can't believe it. I'm sorry. Oh my god. No. I won't do it again. I'm sorry. Last week I skipped Saeed like completely. This is WJ Liv's game. I'm sorry, guys. So, I'm just like a robot. I have a list in front of me, and when I get to one name, I just do the next one. WJ Liv Frostlimo. I'm in a hurry because I messed up the beginning of the stream with these technical problems, so sort of rushing to get through. I just wanted to review what you said in the message before we start. Still making mistakes in my Rossalimo. Traded down opposite color bishop endgame and outplayed my opponent. Any help is appreciated. Alright, so yeah. It's kind of hard to believe that any respectable player would play this move voluntarily. And that's unbelievable. This Grandmaster Mishta. Dude, what is this game? That's like correspondence chess? Wait, what is this? A rating mistake? Blobix, are those real players? Those are French players. There's not a 2670 with that name, is there? Well, the first one's French. I assume they're correspondence players. Haberla and Mista have actually played a6. I mean, this is like the worst thing you can do. To voluntarily play a6. Bishop takes c6. Don't ask me what the worst move is here. I don't want to have a bad bishop, so I would tend toward playing d takes c6. But black didn't know any better, so he played b takes c. The main danger here is that this bishop gets completely shut out of the game. And so if you get the opportunity to play bishop g4 with black, that would be the logical thing to try. Of course, white could even play h3 here, as some people did. Some strong players. Can't believe anybody really would play this for black. It's hideous. So you played c4. Yeah, I mean, c4 looks a little bit controversial. I'm not going to go as far as say that it's definitely bad. But it's inflexible. You know, there's really no reason to commit to c4 here. He's not threatening c4. The standard setup would be like d3. Anatoly line. Anatoly line. He was a character. Just don't. Please, just don't. Alright. You do it, bring my knight out. There's a lot of ramifications of c4. I mean, if he plays like g6, bishop g7, he's going to have good control of this dark square. Yeah, c4 is a mistake. It's not a terrible move. But basically you want to try to immobilize his pawns without going to that extreme of playing c4. So, this is not great. And then that's pretty radical. If I were black, I'd probably play like g6. Try to get the bishop on g7 and zone in on the d4 square. But d5, interesting. So what we want to do is keep these pawns. It's a Nimzo. You're playing the Nimzo, and you want to keep those pawns frozen. I don't think that the exchange of queens here has any real significance on the strategic nature of the position. Nimzovich was a big lover of isolated c-pawns, but not a very dynamic situation here. Dynamic. Bishop g4, perhaps. The problem is queen a4. If black were to try this, bingo, we've got this. And if you try to take on f3, you got queen takes c6 check, resigns. So black can't successfully trade off this bishop with bishop g4. And if he has to play e6, you have a bad Nimzo. I mean, your opponent has a bad Nimzo on the white side. The classic bishop is trapped. No peace. You probably lock it in with e5 later on, and this is the whole refutation of black's position strategically. So that's why d5 is bad. Like, d6 is okay. And g6 is okay. d5 is not okay. You play this correctly. And this is just... This doesn't help black's cause, really. This exchange of queens. Best move. Best move. Let's think about this. He did get to exchange his bishop. But the good news is he has double Isolanis and an Isolani on c6. You have two squares for your king, and it's difficult to choose between them. But basically, as long as something's not landing on d4, like a knight, I think so long as a knight isn't landing in on d4, you can play the king to c2. There's no knight here, there's no knight here, there's no bishop raking this diagonal. What's going to disturb the king on c2? This way, you leave yourself in the pin here, which I don't really like. You know, that should generate some tactical chances for black. And most importantly, like, you're tied up. If you play king c2, you're actually threatening to move your knight. So he pretty much has to exchange now, or forever hold his peace, literally. After this, it's a really, really bad position for black. I mean, this pawn is basically condemned to death. That pawn will fall, like 100%. Black is just going to lose his c-pawn. I mean, maybe there's a small chance he can save it. Knight f6, bishop e3, knight d7, knight here, e6, knight a4. Alright, it's not so easy. You can't win it directly. But white's position is clearly superior. Something like rook d1 coming next. You'll threaten like rook takes d7 and knight b6 check. You have this, rook d3, rook b3. Clearly better for white. Okay, let's see what happened here. e5 is pretty much a horror show. Because the bishop wasn't bad enough already, it gets worse. Now it's blocked in every possible direction. with all those pawns on dark squares. So, you know, he should just play e6. It's got to be better. I feel like you might be waiting a little too long on maybe forcing this exchange here. He could save his bishop now. And this is kind of a good moment to go ahead and do this. Even here, maybe he has bishop h5, g4, knight g6 now. Come to think of it. If you wait too long, you may not get his bishop at all. I think h3. What about this variation? h3, bishop h5, let's check. Computer doesn't like g4. That's probably wise. But we force his bishop on the short diagonal, which is always good in the e4, e5 game. So let's see what happens. Okay. I've got a challenge from someone. Oh, Blobix. We're going to be... I don't think we're going to get through the games today because of our little problem. Bishop g6. This is game. Okay, so this actually happened. And knight takes. Oh, no. So you can't take on g6. You have to take on e4. And his bishop is alive. But it's not that alive. You have f3. He could possibly play f6, going to a bad endgame. And actually, f6, you have options. He just played that, losing a pawn. And so, it's kind of open. This king is not super safe on e2. You're going to have to be careful. But maybe he could play... I guess he couldn't, right? He couldn't really avoid it. Yeah, bishop f6, g5, I suppose. He'd have to just go back. Well, I wonder if that's not a good inclusion for black. He has bishop h4. But it's hard to say at the end of the day. Alright, so he forces you Knops color bishop endgame. Very good chances to win here. I don't think the bishop g5 check helps. It probably helps him. Objectively. Unless you have a really good reason for playing that move. Objectively, he should put his pawn on the dark square, give his bishop another square at f7, build a little bit of a defensive fortress. Yeah, I mean, that's convenient. Yeah, now the second pawn is decisive. He obviously cannot afford to lose the second pawn here. Whatever black tries to do, probably rook here, right? But it's a torturous position and difficult for black to defend. Pawn down with the worst structure. Not easy. You never lost your advantage. This is still not easy to win, but I think the fact the way the pawns are distributed, that you have the 3 against 1 on the queen side makes it pretty easy. And yeah, I don't mind trading rooks up 2 pawns. You know, if there's like no other pawns on the board, you just have 2 pawns, he has good chances to draw. But with plenty of pawns left on the board, it's probably okay to do this. Oof. Now, you know, you got bishop d4. If bishop c2, b4, bishop b3, bishop d4. He's starting to set up a little bit of a white square blockade. So does this really save the game? I got the feeling that this is a draw. It's just too strong of a white square blockade here. So it's funny though, I mean, you have your pawns actually on the opposite color, and it seems like, yes, they can be attacked, but it's generally better. This is a tricky position. So here you need to play king d2. If bishop e1, actually he can't even take on a2 because his bishop will get trapped. So probably something like bishop d4, king f7, and then king c3, with the plan of, I guess, a4, b4, b5. And I got to imagine that white is just about winning in this position. But you have to play it very precisely. Yeah, I think with the rooks on, it's more decisive. But still possible to win, of course, with two pawns usually. Sometimes you have to do crazy stuff like sack the exchange, turkey farm, to break through a blockade. But you have that option. With the rooks on the board, that's a very important factor. The ability to sack the exchange for the enemy, like defensive bishop, opposite color. I beat Irina Krush like that once. And I've lost a game like that once to a strong GM, Timoshenko. Yeah, anyways, so looks like it's drifted into draw land. Still, he wasted time, but you definitely don't want to put the pawns like that. You know, king d2 first. The problem is he's going to win your f-pawn. This is tough. I mean, I can't just pronounce if this is a win or a draw. I'd have to just play it out. b4 is just horrific blunder. So let's say king d2. I mean, obviously this is going to take a lot of calculation to figure this out, but it looks like ultimately you're able to create those two connected pass pawns that should be able to win. Cheaters in the stream battle. Scandal City. There'll be accusations flying. Streamers rigged it. I'm definitely not in the mood for that tonight. So black misses this move, which holds holds the game. Sorry, here. Previous move. Yeah, here, yes, play bishop d3. Yeah, you need to get your king in the game. You can't do this without your king. That's too much. Apparently you're still winning, but man, I wouldn't take that risk. I gotta believe you gotta get your king in the game here. Well, I don't know why it's saying plus 5.1. Wow. What's this evaluation about? I don't know why it's evaluating 5.1. If bishop e3. let's say bishop b7, king f2. And now a5. The pawns are too far up. Man, this is tricky. I don't know. Man, I don't know. Why'd you have to go and find such an interesting endgame? To me, it doesn't look like a win if we can't support those pawns. If the king can't support the pawns, I don't know how we're going to win. My advice to you is to bring the king up with the pawns. Everything has to be like in one unit. It has to be a coordinated force, you know, so you need to play king d2, a4, king c3, b5, everything together. I don't know if it's too late now to start bringing the king. King d2, king d5, bishop e3, g4. And f4. f4 creates another dimension of sight and sound, like the Twilight Zone. This is getting complicated. I can't look at this anymore. It's making me crazy. Okay, guys, I'm not sure. It's an ops color bishop game. It's very complicated. Maybe it's winning, maybe not. Thank you, WJ Loof. So let's see what happened at the end. Your actual continuation. a5, king d5, bishop e3, g4. This was the game. f4. See, this is critical. And now bishop d2. And you managed to get the second pass pawn. Apparently it's winning. That allows a6 clearly. So he has to try bishop c8. But at this stage, the pawns are so far apart, you can just sacrifice with b7. This should be winning. That's the key if you have ops color bishop endgame. The pawns are far apart. This king will penetrate over to the queen side and then help this pawn to go. White wins. That was a tough game. Alright. So Uber Driver's up next. Guys, I have to go in like half an hour at the latest. We started a little bit late today because of technical problems. Here is game. Svidler, Carlson. What's up? What's up? Nice instructive engine there. Engine's not very good at ops color bishop end games, in case you didn't notice. Ending engine. WG Live, thank you for the donation. 200 bits. The anti-refutation of the Spanish. Okay, when was this game from? There have been a lot of them, right? Carlson games, a lot of high-level games in this variation. Pretty much standard these days. It's a kind of exchange variation. I feel like it's a little better than the standard exchange variation for white. It looks sort of feeble. And white shouldn't really have that much here. And the intuition tells you to play like a4, a5 at this point. But the point is to trap this white squared bishop. So that's interesting. 7 games, and the first one with knight f8. So when you let the computer run for a while, it eventually comes up with this move. When was this game played, Uber driver? Knight f8. It's also interesting that no one's bothered to play like queen e7, which is a reasonable move. We would take with the queen on e6. White is definitely slightly better, and white also has, besides the structural advantage, the ability to maybe break with f4. His pawns are on the right color. But it's fairly simplified. I would think that black would have decent chances to draw. I'm surprised that no one's tried that move at least. This is by far more promising than any other. So this is Svidler Carlson following Caruana Nakamura. And keep in mind, Svidler's playing Carlson. It's like you're automatically like content with a draw. And that influences your play. You know, Svidler is not going to be as aggressive against Carlson that he might be against a different player. This position, the computer wants to play this really weird move, queen h5. I'm not even sure what that threatens. I guess the e5 pawn. Okay, that's a stupid question. You're threatening the e5 pawn. So that looks relevant. This might be something you would see in a future game. When these guys go over this game and they see that queen h5 is a good move, Nakamura would love that move, right? It's a delayed queen's attack. This just looks like an ordinary move. At the end of the day, although black has the worst structure, he has this pressure on d4. So his play along that open file, every time you have a doubled pawn, remember this, that people don't talk about this very often in chess teachings, but having a double pawn means you have a half open file the opponent doesn't have. You know, it's an advantage. Use it. I mean, typically in an exchange Lopez, black would be trying to play like c5, c4, clamp down. This is obviously a minor concession. He's able to reject the knight back to f3 and disable white from playing any kind of quick f4. But the focus is very fundamental here. That's why black is okay. Even though black has two islands and white has one pawn island, the control of this square is like Botvinnikian. And if white ever tries to play c3, it's a backward pawn on the d file. So it's difficult to do anything with white, I would say. Pawn square. Slightly inaccurate recapture there. Okay, so takes. What do you call these? It's a Tetris. Steps. Pawn steps, but it really adds dynamism to black's pawn structure, actually. He's got like b5, c5, c4. The steps are a much improved structure. You don't see that every day. Not sure I really like a6. He's got to do something. Okay, a6. And then this thing, see? So now white's going to have to play d4 or just defend passively. And now he has to take with the knight so as not to have two Isolani here. This is Svidler playing white. And a very interesting move, h5. It's a little late to start attacking. I actually expected rook takes rook. I wonder what Svidler would have done. Apparently the engine thinks he's better after cd. It's an ugly structure. I really don't think that white is better. You know, I didn't like the structure. I don't know. But Magnus plays h5. Now he takes with the pawn. Virtual transposition. Man, Magnus is good. I don't know what time control this is, but he's on mating attack mode here. Oh, it's like a computer. This pawn is hanging. Oops. But it's just one pawn, right? And we have a strong passer. So according to the computer, like Spidler's instincts are okay here. Maybe that's enough, but I don't think it's easy against Magnus. If he could just maintain the pawn, Black can try to mobilize his own pawns eventually. And White has really no winning chances. And draw. It's a crippling pass pawn, but Magnus was never in any danger of losing the whole game. He was slightly better. Okay, Uber driver, thanks for sharing. Jim is up next. I don't think I'm going to get through all the games. We'll do as many as we can. I've got another 25 minutes. All right, Mr. Jim. Where's Mr. Jim? Mr. Jim says, I don't mind if you have time to make this game or not, as I really play badly lately. Bad. Just to see your opinion on this line. Alright, Simul, rapid time control. I just want to see my opinion on this line. Yeah, here I play two different moves, Bishop G7 and D5. Jim. I've played both a lot. D5 is fine. And now I have to remember about the move order. It's one move or the other is better. If Bishop G7, Queen B3... Yeah, Bishop G7 is better than Knight F6. If you play Knight F6 here, White has Queen B3. This is a huge problem for Black, actually. Practically nobody knows that. But... yeah, so this position can actually be reached by a different order of moves, where Black is playing like Knight F6 and then G6 after. In other words, if we played this like E4, C5, C3 straight up, D5, pawn takes, queen takes, D4, Knight F6, White plays Knight F3 and you play G6 and now you're screwed. After Queen B3, White is... there's no way for Black to equalize here. But the point is, your move order is okay, because after D5, takes here. The idea is that on Queen B3, you can trade queens and then take on D4. I mean, I think we looked at this once on the stream, but the idea is Bishop takes D4. This is the only way to kind of negate White having a better game. It's a very important point, though. So... knowing that is key. Bishop G7, Bishop E3. This is a completely different variation. So, yeah, this should be okay for Black. This move I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you have to face everything here. Knight A3, Bishop E2. What else? Takes. Maybe even Knight D2 is a move. Maybe not in this position. Alright, here. So this doesn't look right. I've honestly had some problems with this. Even on the stream I had a game or two. I think I had a game with Ochpate there once. But, is it possible to play Knight F6? Mr. Jim? This is better. This is the move, probably. So we're going to play knight f6, and it's okay. If takes, queen takes d1 check, king takes d1, knight g4, and we're okay. Honestly, I haven't been playing this line regularly. I kind of forgot most of this that I probably knew at one point. But you can see by Black's score that everything's okay here. White's supposed to play knight a3. And in this variation, you have to be careful. On knight f6, bishop c4, queen e4 check, then bishop e3. And now you have to be very careful not to do something stupid like pawn takes pawn. Was it this position? Wow, Korobov won a game with Black here. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Now knight b5. Interesting. Slight problem if pawn takes pawn, knight c7 check. Acerbate, what do you think? Good variation? Anyway, Jim, you got to know that line as well. But I don't know about knight c6. This is new to me. This is new to me, so I'm on my own. I've never seen this. Played by Berkovich and Orsho Miklos, who's certainly not a theoretician these days. The former arbiter of First Saturday. He wasn't a player even back in 2004. He hasn't been for like 20 years. But Berkovich was a solid, very solid player. I remember him playing at the New York Open. But knight c6. What are we doing here? Let's see. c4 is okay. So he has to take. Maybe we'll transpose to another variation. I think you're going to transpose. Probably to some other variation that's playable. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this. I don't know. It's just a line. It's funny that it didn't transpose back into something known. Interesting. I mean, obviously you've got to think about knight to g4 and the ramifications of that at some point. I've never been a huge fan of playing these endgames, you know, and I don't really know how to play them that well. Let's take a look at knight g4. I mean, this has got to be a major possibility to eliminate that dark squared bishop. But every time you exchange a piece, it's a little bit closer to a pawned out endgame. Also possible to play knight d5, you know, with the same idea. e5. I don't think that e5 works well with bishop on g7 type of setups, you know. But my recommendation would not to play knight c6. So I don't know where we are here, but I'm very concerned about like this square on d6. Still, your position may not be that bad. Actually, this is starting to look really interesting immediately. White could have knight g5. Well, you've got knight takes c3 check. Yeah, okay, so it's a blitz game, a lot of stuff floating around. He did a good idea. He did a good thing. Probably at that point exchanging your knight off, sorry. It was getting dangerous. Still dangerous for white. He's got to be very careful. Did you have bishop f5 check? Honestly, I'm not really fond of playing either side of these type of endgames. It was a fast game. But Jim's got control now. The queenside majority, you know, for white isn't that much better than black's. Because it's... Good luck tomorrow. Thank you. Uh-oh. Interference, bishop. Now your rook's getting trapped. I don't want to play a5. Just don't, do you have that in Greek? Let sleeping dogs lie. I asked you that before, a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't touch anything over there on the queen side. He's just, he's got you outgunned. You're attacking the wrong Iraqi base with a5, I think. So your rook is trapped now. Probably you should... Damn, you might be in trouble now. Okay, you have to play rook d3. This is a very serious threat. Actually, your rook's not trapped. But he is threatening this. Oh, that's messed up. He's not threatening anything. Alright. Yeah, you played good. I don't like a5. And it's kind of ugly. That's amazing, though. Okay, it was a simul. I know where he's at. He doesn't have time, and you're a pretty strong player. But he looked bad. He looked bad here at the end. Okay, but that's a very rare line. I've never seen knight c6 played in that position. All right, guys. Time for... I guess we'll just go through the rest of the games quickly. I'm not going to be able to do your game, Blubix. Not enough time. Hisseduns. Quickly. Quickly. Okay, so Hisseduns is white. Funny, I had another person I worked with recently have a game with b5 on move 1. I like bishop g5 against anything. Anytime they do b3 or b5, I like bishop g5. c3 doesn't seem like a bad move. We'll see. Keep the diamond for next Thursday. Bob Blubix is the gifter leader. Gifter leader 2. c3, bishop b7. Bishop g5, e6, knight bd2. And now d5. e3. So now a6. Yeah, I had a student who played a London system. We looked over a game today. His bishop was on f4 in like exactly the same position. I like bishop g5 better. c3 is kind of a useful move. I mean, anyway he wants to play a closed setup, I think c3 is fine. It enables maybe a4 at some point. We could even... There it is. I think once we play bishop g5, we're basically committing to a closed queen pawn setup, and c3 is going to pretty much fit in. This is obviously horrendous. Black voluntarily destroying his own pawn structure with b takes a. Obviously not good. Now what? Knight c6 is hard to resist. Yeah, I honestly, I see the computer came with something fantastic like knight b3, knight a5 ideas. Knight b3. I mean, really? Can't we just castle? Computer, knight a5. Oof. Gotta turn the engine off. It's just poisoning my mind. That's exceptional. This looks like an ordinary move, but decent. I would have probably played the same way. What about leaving the situation Yeah, it's very little counterplay for black. There's no knight b8, really no active moves. So rook b8 makes sense. I resign against Kamsky here. If I'm black. Just resign. I think this is a good practical try. It's a tremendous French for white. Sensible. We need this piece for defense. It's a good bishop. So this is an interesting moment. I don't know which way to retreat. And that's just... Black is desperate. We would really like to break with c4, but we're going to lose our b4 pawn. White needs counterplay before black's able to launch f5, f4. That's a convenient move. What about rook b8? This is hanging. Nice move, queen a8, taking the sting out of the position. Now f5 is coming. Preempting. Is f3 good? But you got to do something. I mean, your bishop's about to get trapped with f4. I was even thinking of piece sacrifices. Honestly, this isn't so clear. I really have no clue what's happening after that. I'd rather not be that desperate. Now you're out of the woods, as long as he doesn't have f5. So f3 looks like it was a good move. And now there's no danger. You're just completely winning. I don't know what to suggest here, f5 anyway. Maybe black should try it. What else can he do? Now you could sacrifice a piece, maybe. For real. Like here. This looks much stronger now. I mean, I gotta believe that white is way, way better if you sacrifice a piece here. But just one idea, you know. Totally different scenario. Black king is way, way more open now. f3 was a good move. So I was suggesting this analysis iteration. But if he can't play f5, he's just dead. You know, there's nothing for black here. Just lost on both sides of the board now, essentially. And I don't mind the endgame. Black's pawn structure is shot. He's down 2 pawns. Is he only down 1 pawn? He's actually only down 1 pawn. I thought he was down 2 pawns. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like obscular bishops and the bad structure. Unless he can attack the pawns on c3. Knight d5 now. You have even maybe bishop g4. Passive. But maybe it's good enough. Because I was looking for something else. I was looking for this, for bishop g4 here. But I'm not sure. You'd have to calculate. I mean, it seems like he wants to go to the file, but then knight a5. This move does nothing for black. Yeah, I like f3. It was a key move of the game, really. Yeah, he goes there, but it's funny that Hizidnus didn't even play this. He just played rook here. He got a little bit passive, but now bishop g6 is going to win the game. He did not play it because there's this counterplay over here. Man, this is tricky. Black almost saving the game. Wow. It's a tragedy. You had to be winning there in the middle game. And now it should probably be lost. There has to be a way for this to be winning. How did this happen? I mean, the first thought for me was letting the rook get active. I was surprised when white played rook c2 on rook a8. I thought we were playing knight a5. I actually hallucinated here and thought black had bishop d8. How bad can this be? Knight a5, king d7. Threatening bishop d8. You have time for king d2, bishop d8, rook a1. I mean, everything's under control in this position. It plays out like a Super GM bullet game. Yeah, it does. Man, but black just totally took over. Objectively, it's lost. It feels like it should be lost. Desperately try to trade the pawns here. Not a lot of pawns left. I still think it's probably winning. Black really just needs one. So I would think that black has chances to win. The one pawn. Crazy game. You were completely winning. Completely winning. Thank you, Hissit Notes. Okay, and Tony. Wow, I hope the PGN works. Can we just find this? I'm going to try. I don't think this PGN is going to work. Oh, you got the game right there. Don't be an idiot. Don't be an idiot, man. Alright, and Tony. It doesn't say your opponent's name. Why is that? That's annoying. Hold on a second here. It's casual blitz game. Antoni is white against Alex Chuk. I have to go in like 15 minutes, guys. Quickly. That's weird. Occasionally you get these people trying to play g5, Grob, like King's Indians. I feel like knight f3 in a way kind of goes into that g5, g4 thing. You're probably better off choosing a different setup here. I would think like e4, bishop e3, f3, some kind of like same-ish. You probably should alter your setup under the assumption that black's going to play g5. Yeah, that is one of the most annoying openings ever. That Philidor Black Lion thing. But I'm not surprised by this. White didn't play that incisively. Now queen c2. The bishop should probably wait. I want to have flexibility to castle both sides, so probably queen c2. Keep your options open here. You might want to play h3, but it does feel a little bit passive. I'm trying to sort of explain why I don't like bishop d3 that much. Not sure. I like this, queen c2. Because you keep the option of castling queenside open. With all those pieces migrating to the king side, it might make sense. Black's moves feel a little bit random at this point. You know, he was moving toward the king side. Now he's playing on the queen side with like queen a5. Again, I didn't really like playing knight f3 to give him the sort of g4 stuff. But I gotta believe, you know, you almost have b4. You could play like a b4 wing gambit here. I don't understand knight b5 so much. G4, I guess, could just be a mistake in that moment to give you the F5 square. I think this is clearly the wrong moment for G4. I'm feeling happy. Now, did you trap your own knight? This is not what we wanted, to have to play knight A3, clearly. The knight is looking stupid on H4 if it's going to get hit by E6. But he puts his knight there instead, which is catastrophic. So maybe E6, hitting the knight, you have to play G3. I mean, black played an absurd opening, but his position is almost okay. Because white made some suboptimal moves. This is obviously not what we really wanted. Our knight's on the side of the board. But, you know, this is a serious mistake. So why not just knight F5? I mean, this looks good. Jim, thank you. Okay, it's not a bad move. Knight C2 is actually not bad. This could be a square. Yeah, you might have even won a pawn in that line if you played knight F5 right away. But definitely be playing it. You gotta play it. If you get the dark square bishop, you're in good shape. Probably, like, he has to play bishop F6 now. And then you can make some ordinary move. Even his hypnosis F3 might be possible. But first you could play queen e2, rook ae1, get everything ready to go, and then f3. Get coordinated. This is a good plan, obviously. So he just lost a piece. I mean, it's a silly situation. He didn't see the threat. But it's a lot, you know, more sound than Acerbate's one move cheapo. It's over. This is unnecessarily passive, like rook b1. Again, you know, you hesitated with knight f5 an awful lot. I would gladly play that move at almost any moment. You got to get the knight off the side of the board. This one is particularly bad too. Okay, rook b1 wasn't so bad if your plan is to play b4. Finally, knight f5. You're up a piece. Simplify, okay. Yeah, and winning. Game over. You corrected the other knight. Taking on h4 seems a little bit greedy, but I almost think this is a good pawn as a defender of your position. I recommend not taking it. On a practical level, you know. There's a chance those open lines could do some damage if you misplay the position. I think it's better practically not to do that. And it's over. Alright, but basically not a bad game. I don't really like putting knight in f3 early against that h6, g5. You know, it seems like you're just kind of helping him have that push. You can come up with a different setup there. Alright, last game. Yabatis for today. Sorry, Blubix. You're a little bit late. This is the game, right? Anonym. Anonym is black. Let's flip it up. Rui Gao played him in Ketchkemet. Okay, that's interesting. What do you call this from your opponent? Drug move. And of course, knight d4. I mean, why would you play knight b5 and put the knight back on a3 or c3? I mean, this is absolutely expected. No surprise at all. It's basically a really weird Alyekin's defense. I can't believe you didn't take. Maybe you can smothered mate yourself. I think you can find a way to smother mate yourself here. Ugh. It's a little like the last game. B takes C is unforgivable. Anonym always plays weird for the sake of weirdness. But his position is so good that This is probably not a bad move, honestly. I talked about doubled pawns and half-open files. Increases your pawn center. I know it's justifiable. I prefer to play knight takes, but that's boring. And I think that DC is just bad. Instead of f6, first of all, I think you should just take the pawn. But I know that's materialistic. But h6. f6 blocks your own bishop. And he should probably retreat. While he's at it, he should probably go here. What a weird position. Clearly bishop d2. Now the Nimzovich defense player is at home with some sort of c5 pawn sack. He's clamping down, see? He got it anyway. It's even stronger now. Oops. Okay. White was not playing with a lot of energy in this one. A little too creative. This is what happens when you use psychedelics while you're playing chess. And you're not on the highest level. He needs a psychedelic trainer. It's a new trend in I heard it's a new trend in the high-tech world. Bishop e4 check, king c1, queen e1. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. I think after that we have to do Blobix's game quickly. I've got to go, guys. But a funny line on Sveshnikov by Blobix against Fleetwood Mac. So running through the Sveshnikov here, our hero Blobix playing black. Bishop f6, gf6, knight a3, b5, knight d5, f5. As you know, I played g4 against Blobix. It's not really a great move. Bishop d3 is the old main line. And now queen g5. So, it's still the main line. Bishop d3. This has been the main line since I was a little kid. I remember sort of Dorian's analysis being variation 2.378, bishop d3. But, alright, queen g5. I've never seen this. And now, amazingly, g4 has been played. The Karaklaj system. Just, not Karaklaj. It was, Velimirovich. Sorry. Take care, Turkey Farm. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're going to be back tomorrow morning with a short stream before my tournament on Friday. Play some Blitz. Oh, you saw my desktop background? Yeah. My son made that when he was like 6 years old. Everybody likes that. Bees. Terraria bees. Queen g5. Knight c7 check. King d8. Knight takes a8. So this is all the big trap. He fell for it. And this actually happened in a tournament game. But it's not clear what's going on. No, just one game a day. Knight d4. I'm too old for more than that. That is a direct threat. Bishop g4 is coming, sir. It's nice how the knight covers this square on h4, so there's not even a check there or anything. Wow, and this is... Was this guy a FIDE master or something? Oh, Blavic's just decimating a FIDE master with his cheap line. Decimating. Nice king. I mean, I suppose there was many different ways to do this. And where's the mate? Still no mate. Oh my god. What? Wow. So it's bishop b7. He never saw that coming. I didn't. Nice. h4 is Blavic's favorite square. It's usually occupied by a knight. Alright guys, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great Friday, and thanks for watching and contributing to the stream and subscribing. No one ever expected the bishop to get him on the other diagonal. We were waiting for the bishop to get him on this diagonal, but it was waiting for the b7 diagonal. Thanks someone on sound. Thanks everyone. Have a great night. I will talk to you later. Goodbye. Goodbye guys. Bye-bye.